This week, Jonny gets his fanboy on as he chats to the dream team of Greg Rucka and Nicola Scott about Wonder Woman, Black Magick, and the current state of comic books. Meanwhile, Angelo sits down with Blomberg, the newly named Global Content Editor for PAX, in the first taste of our new series, Player Attack. This is Player Attack. Hi, I'm Jessica Citizen, and this week, instead of looking to the future, let's look back for a moment and recognise the 4 great games that have been added to the World Video Game Hall of Fame for 2017. A field of 12 finalists were nominated earlier this year, including Myst, Portal, Tomb Raider, Mortal Kombat, and even the classic Microsoft Windows Solitaire, but these 4 games quickly emerged as the winners. Spanning multiple decades, backgrounds, and gaming platforms, each one has significantly impacted life as we know it, both within the world of video games and society in general. So, congratulations to Halo Combat Evolved, Pokemon Red and Green, Street Fighter 2, and Donkey Kong. All of these games are now on permanent display at the Strong Museum of Play in Rochester, New York, alongside previous inductees which include The Legend of Zelda, Super Mario Bros., Doom, The Sims, Grand Theft Auto 3, Tetris, Sonic the Hedgehog, Pac-Man, The Oregon Trail, Space Invaders, World of Warcraft, and of course, Pong. Now though, we can get back to some more modern things. You might not have heard of it, but you might be in the minority. Multiplayer shooter PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds has taken Steam by storm over the past month, to the point that this early access game has already sold 2 million copies. The premise of the game is simple. 100 players drop out of a plane onto an island where they must scavenge for weapons and equipment, and then, basically, fight for their lives. Even though the island might seem huge to begin with, the battleground gets smaller and smaller as these Hunger Games play out. If this sounds like something you want to do, join 2 million of your closest friends and jump on Steam to grab a copy now. But speaking of games on Steam, after nearly 20 years, German gamers can finally play the original, uncensored version of Valve's classic FPS, Half-Life. When the game was first released in 1998, its graphic displays of gore and violence landed Half-Life on the notorious Index of Objectionable Media by the Federal Review Board for media harmful to young persons. Once a game makes it onto the index, it cannot be sold to anyone under the age of 18 or even publicly advertised. Given that Half-Life landed on the list thanks to that violence and gore, the version released in Germany had some serious modifications. Blood was replaced by oil, human enemies were turned into robots with mechanical parts, and some characters simply did not die when they were attacked. Now, quietly, the German government has changed its mind, and Valve has, equally quietly, released a free patch for anyone who owns the censored version, meaning a new generation of gamers will finally find out what happens when you shoot a scientist. In quick news, it seems Nintendo was so determined to meet customer demand for the Switch that the company decided to take a cut in profits and ship consoles via plane rather than the cheaper, slower road, rail or sea options. The decision cost Nintendo around $45 per console, but the company sold 2.74 million Switch units in the first month, compared to the mere 2 million it had planned, so the quick turnaround had some obvious benefits. Big N also revealed plans for the first DLC to hit The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild later this year. You're looking at a brand new challenge, a new map feature that will highlight the roads most travelled, a new harder difficulty mode, a mysterious travel medallion, a mask that will help you find Koroks, and some new armour sets, including this one, which may just be the best thing we've seen in a long time. In still more Nintendo news, the rumour mill is buzzing with the idea that this year's big Nintendo Switch release will be Mario and Rabbids Kingdom Battle, combining everyone's favourite plumber with, you know, Ubisoft's charismatic Rabbids. Details are sketchy and rely on unnamed sources at this stage, but it might be an idea to keep an eye out around this time next month when E3 hits LA. We also don't know any details about this next thing, but we have to tell you anyway. Rocket League is teaming up with the WWE on an upcoming project, which we're hoping means real-world acrobatic rocket-powered battle cars will drop in on Backlash on May 21st, but it could mean just about anything else really. And whatever it is, it can't necessarily be more unexpected than this. Titanfall is headed to mobile as a real-time strategy game. Titanfall Assault is a collaboration between original developer Respawn, publisher Nexon, and new developer Particle City, promising a fast and fluid RTS complete with both towering titans and agile pilots. If this is all sounding a bit familiar, it's actually the second time Titanfall has started the trek towards smartphones. Late last year, the same three companies announced plans for Titanfall Frontline. That one was a strategic card-based battler, and it was axed just a couple of months after its big reveal. There's no word yet on a time frame for Titanfall Assault, but it will be arriving on both iOS and Android when it gets here. And finally this week, indie developer No Matter Studios has been forced to change the title of its upcoming debut project following a trademark dispute with Bethesda. The game in question, Pray for the Gods, has now been retitled Pray for the Gods, with an ash in place of the E, that is, that combined AE character. The logo for the game remains the same, with a kneeling woman between the R and the Y. The three-person development team explained the alternate spelling was actually one they'd considered earlier, but discarded when they figured people would have problems entering the unusual character into search engines. However, their hand was forced when Bethesda decided the trademark application was a little too similar to the existing trademark for Prey, which incidentally has hit shelves this week. Now, the studio isn't necessarily pleased with the outcome, but the resulting drama has certainly pushed the game firmly into the spotlight. Pray for the Gods is a third-person action-adventure game set in a massive snowstorm, and it looks like this. For more information on any of these stories, or to keep up to date with the latest gaming news, head to playerattack.com. But for now, stick around, we've got plenty more still to come.
So, Guy, like, what is it that you do at the moment?
Well, right now I'm enjoying not being inside the convention in this lovely Adelaide weather now. No, in general, my title is the content manager. So I'm the content manager for ReedPOP, and we look after PAX Australia and Oz Comic-Con here in Australia. Primarily, I'm more focused on the PAX side of things, my background in the video game industry and whatnot. I like to say the content side of things it consists of everything except for the exhibitors on the expo floor. So content in terms of panels, features, community spaces, tournament areas, overseeing a lot of the volunteers a lot of the time as well, especially in PAX, and things like that. So very much being the glue around the other fields that do stuff in the convention side of things.
I remember late 2012 when I got told by some American friends of mine that, oh my God, there was a PAX happening in Australia, and I was freaking out. I was like, this is bullshit, right? This can't be happening. But like, so how did that come about? How did we finally get a PAX, and how did the first international PAX come to Australia? Yeah,
I know, isn't that awesome though? Because everyone was like, oh, well, there'll be a PAX in Europe. I mean, we'll go to London or something like that. That's what you'd think. It was this great little kind of like when you know I found out we were going to do it in Australia. It was like a real. Yeah. Fuck you. You're. Oh, are we allowed to swear on this?
Oh, sure.
Oh, you can bleep me out.
First episode is this.
Okay. But it was a lot of fun to find that out. There are a lot of factors behind it. Mm-hmm. You know, obviously, ReedPOP. We work with Penny Arcade over in the States, and we're always looking for somewhere to actually go outside of North America. To be honest, the Australian gaming community, is very strong down here, and there was a lot of vocal support to actually bring a PAX down here. Also, in terms of like Penny Arcade, their readership, their merch sales and things like that, Australia, I think it was like the third highest region. Okay. You know, and in terms of per capita, that's insane. Yeah. You know, so there was a lot of demand for it. But even with PAX, you now see that with like following conventions sort of thing that come down here, big ones from the US like GX Australia or RTX or whatnot. So it's not an isolated incident just with the Penny Arcade community. It's definitely the culture that we have here around gamers and you know, people that are actually fans of all this stuff. So
do you feel like conventions just sort of like exploded or at least Could you say that the convention sort of exploded in like the last few years or so?
I don't know. I mean, it's hard for me to quantify this. I've only really been directly involved in conventions since the first PAX in 2013, and prior to that, you might feel this is similar being in Adelaide, but I was based in Brisbane in Queensland,
Yep.
and up there, any conventions that we got, it was a special occurrence. Anytime
big time.
we got any attention whatsoever,
Yeah, that's right.
Anytime we got something, instead of Sydney or Melbourne, frankly, was like a big deal. You know.
Same for us.
Yeah, exactly. So for me, it was always Supernova was the big one. And we had a Gen Con at one point as well for a couple of years, but I think there's always been, ever since like the early 2000s, this pop culture kind of convention scene that's been bubbling up and rising up. I think in the last 4 to 5 years, definitely there's been more events around specific niche elements of pop culture, whether that be gaming, whether that be around specific communities like RTX or whatnot, whether that be around even niche elements like CanCon, that's a tabletop convention in Canberra. And even you've got these intimate events that are around just singular celebrities or whatnot. There's definitely more events popping up now, but if you look at it just within the relativity of a specific city, so here in Adelaide, I would say you've got AvCon, Supernova, Oz Comic-Con.
But then up until I feel like a few years ago, we didn't have those except for AvCon. Like Supernova, like again, you mentioned Supernova coming to Brisbane. Like I remember, like 5-6 years ago, thinking, oh man, like Supernova seems pretty cool, but when the hell are we going to get in Adelaide? Right. And then all of a sudden, I just looked at a newspaper and there it was coming to Adelaide. So
very good, it has. I don't know what the best model is though, in terms of should there be. Like we do both. We've got an Oz Comic-Con in most of the capital cities around Australia. So every year there's an Oz Comic-Con in Adelaide. The flip side to that is PAX. There's only one PAX, and that PAX is in Melbourne at the moment, and it's every year, once a year. So people make a pilgrimage, trek to that. It's the Woodstock of gaming every year.
So the community just
exactly. So which is better? Is it better for the conventions to actually go to each city? Or is it better for just to have the one? I don't know. I don't have an answer to that. They both have their pros and cons.
What's the logistics behind that in terms of like PAX being in Melbourne? Like, do you see it like say in 5 years' time being big enough to say have another one say on the other side of the country in Perth?
Well, I don't know. I mean, we look at the model that was started over in North America. The first PAX over there was in 2004 in Seattle. And the second one, I think, started in 2010 in Boston. And a big reason for that was because the one in Seattle sold out. Like, tickets sold out. You can't buy tickets at the door. It's ridiculous. I think these days they sell out in like 6 minutes. The demand was there. And the convention got to the point where it was outgrowing the actual convention center in Seattle. And now it takes up like 6 city blocks and uses up every hotel room and space around the general area. So for them, it was like, well, this is logical. We should, create a second PAX on the other side of the country. So I guess in answer to your question, it's not completely out of the realms of possibility, but in the same respect, we don't exactly have the same population as North America
absolutely not.
to justify that. But you know what? If we ever completely max out the Melbourne Exhibition and Convention Centre to capacity and sell out all our tickets in ridiculous amounts, and we have such a vocal community saying it's not fair, that we don't get the chance to actually go to this as well, then we'd explore it. But I don't know, that'd be quite down the track, I think.
I'd imagine it'd be a hell of a lot of work as well.
I'm not. Let's avoid that actually. Let's just do the one. The one's good.
Guys, most known at the moment for this lovely lady in the DC universe. What brought you guys onto this project? What attracted you to Diana?
What attracted me? She's the best superhero. So that was easy. What got us on it was they brought me in to do Rebirth, and we decided that the only way we were going to be able to meet the double ship was to break into 2 narratives. And the second we did that, I was like, well, then we do 2 different timelines and we bring them in sync. And that means we get to do year 1. And the second I did that, I was like, I'm calling Nicola. For the simple reason that if I went and I did year 1 with anyone else, she would have killed me.
Greg and I have been wanting to work together on Wonder Woman for such a long time, for over 10 years. And the fact that you know, when the opportunity came along and we get to do an origin story, that's like ticking all of the boxes. And, you know, it was the best conditions in which we could have worked on what is for both of us a dream project.
Did DC give you carte blanche to basically take what you wanted, or did you just go nuts?
Yeah, no, but you never get carte blanche because there's no such thing as DC Comics anymore. They're DC Entertainment, a division of Warner Brothers. So, and there's a Wonder Woman movie coming out. You may have heard. Yeah, so you can't really go in there and say, I think she was sent to Earth by her parents when their planet was destroyed. They go, no, you can't do that. We were doing Wonder Woman, and we wanted to go back really to basics with the character. And this was one of the things that I was directed to do when they gave me the job. They said, you know, Diana has in many ways in recent years strayed from her original vision. We'd like to bring her back into line. So, well, you can rarely find an easier way to do so than in a retelling of the origin. And it's not that I think we revamped it. I think what we did is we tried to reconcile different versions of the origin and things that you can make the argument that the changes we made we shouldn't have made, but I feel that everything we did in order to make her origin viable now. There are certain elements in the original origin as it arises that you're like, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, you know? And there are, most crucially, I think, we overlook the most important part of the origin, which isn't the contest, which isn't, you know, Steve arriving on Themyscira. It's her willingness to leave. Her willingness to leave paradise, and that she does it not because of a guy. She does it because there's a world out there that she has wondered about, and that there is a job that must be done and a sacrifice that must be made to do it, and she's the one who will do it. She will not suffer another to make the sacrifice. So
yeah, I feel like we didn't stray too far from the story, and neither of us particularly wanted to. But we were certainly given the freedom to retell the story, focusing on the bits that we feel were important or overlooked previously, and forget about the stuff that just isn't important anymore. You know, the modern context and trying to make it as sort of all ages appropriate as possible sort of gave us the only real guidelines that we felt like we needed.
That's giving me a little bit of the old chills on the inside. That's taking it back to what's important, which is the thing. To segue off into something completely separate, jumping away from DC, heading over to Image. You guys left the comfort nest, if you will, and spurred out to make your own creative content, in your case, Greg, and brought Nicola along, with Black Magick. Why did you come back together to take on that project?
I'm going to take it.
Well, okay. Again, Greg and I have been trying to work together for over 10 years, looking for opportunities, and it's getting there now, isn't it? And sort of the bad timing, or, you know, just not quite getting what we hoped we would get. And eventually, you know, Greg had left DC a few years beforehand, was, you know, doing really well in creator-owned with Lazarus and, you know, some various other projects. And I was getting ready to leave DC, and when I approached Greg, you know, what are you working on at the moment? What ideas have you got cooking? He ran the idea of Black Magick sort of past me, and it ignited every, you know, genre, you know, non-superhero genre spark that I have, because, you know, witches are my occult characters of choice. And I don't see a lot of witch fiction that speaks to how I see witchcraft and the sort of the religion behind it. And at the time, you know, Greg had another artist potentially attached. But over the next couple of years while I was wrapping up with DC, it became clear that it might still be available for us to work on together. And so we started developing it further, and that's kind of how it came about.
Yeah. Michael Lark and I were, before we did Lazarus, we were looking at doing Black Magick. That was actually the initial idea. And for a variety of reasons, it didn't quite gel. And instead, we ended up doing Lazarus, which Image is still publishing. So, you know, when I told Nick, well, it's Black Magick, she was like, yes.
Right.
And I would have been stupid to say, nah. So, I mean, I'm not sure what more to add, you know. We had to take a hiatus from the title while we did the Wonder Woman Year One storyline. But Black Magick will be back in June of this year. We've got a one-shot in June. We'll be off in July, and then starting in August through, I would expect, January, roughly, we've got the next 5-6 issues are running straight. So we'll get through the initial arc, and then we'll have a couple months off, and then we'll go into the next arc. And, you know, Black Magick is probably going to run at most 35, 36 issues. Most likely will come in at about 33. So we've got another 3.5 years on that, I think.
What is it, corny enough as it sounds, that you guys bring out best in each other when you collab?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know what we bring out in each other that's the best. I know that I have the designation of Nicola's brother by another mother.
Yeah. Yeah, my husband refers to us as brother and sister.
Yeah.
Because we squabble, but we love each other very much.
Yeah, and we do squabble. And we get testy with each other and so on, but I love her.
Yeah.
She's my best bud.
Yay!
You know, I mean...
yeah, and I think, you know, we're both narratively and character driven, and because
Our sensibilities.
Yeah, our sensibilities are really similar, and so, you know, I feel like I have a really firm grasp of Greg's intention when he writes a script. And, you know, we'll talk a lot before he even writes, and then when he writes, I'm always surprised, even though I know a lot of the stuff that's coming, and I know the tone and the themes that are coming. The reading of, you know, what we're setting down as our canon is always fascinating, and I love reading it over and over again, and then I have to sort of interpret it, and, you know, there's just a lot of trust and faith between us. That the finished product is exactly what we're both trying to achieve.
It's for those of us who can't write and draw, the collaborative medium of comics is exceptionally collaborative. I mean, and you live or die on the strength of that collaboration. And when it works really well, you create something that's greater than the sum of its parts. And I mean, all other things being equal, selfishly, I'm going to work with Nicola because we always end up creating something that I think is greater than the sum of its parts together. How we manage to do that might just be blind luck, but it's working so far, and I ain't giving it up. So,
awesome! Thank you very much, guys.
You're welcome.
You may have just witnessed a comic book marriage of the best kind.
And that's about it for this edition of Player Attack. Thanks for watching. Next week, Angelo heads to the deep, dark reaches of the galaxy as he chats to the local team behind upcoming modem punk trading game, Objects in Space. In the meantime, you can catch us at playerattack.com. We're on Facebook, YouTube and Twitter. And if you've got something you want to say, send us an email, mailbox@playerattack.com, or just hop on our forums. Also, if you want to support Player Attack, you can find us on Patreon and help us bring you the latest in gaming news, plus all of these wonderful interviews and reviews from the world of video games. Till next week, I'm Jessica Citizen, and this is Player Attack.